From this to this and this, surprisingly this, and unfortunately that. As a Rick and Morty fan, you've probably experienced a roller coaster of emotions from the simple act of watching the show. Depending on which season or episode you're on, these feelings can range from pure disgust to disappointment and even nostalgia. These are the varying sensations I have come to experience watching the show throughout its 6-season run.
What is my purpose?
You passed butter.
Oh my god.
Yeah, welcome to the club, pal.
The origins of the show's success dates back to how good season 1 to 3 were. Those were the best times to be a Rick and Morty viewer, when each episode was filled with incredible humor, well-grounded storytelling, and intricate details. This was apparently enough to blast the show to the top of the TV ratings, so much so that before the release of season 3, it was the most popular comedy series among millennials on air, even ahead of The Big Bang Theory. But what did you expect? This is what happens when an animated show unlike anything we had ever seen before appears on our screens. Along with this newfound success came in an influx of impressionable viewers who were turned into dedicated fans. They worshipped the show and its characters to the point where it became an obsession. At the time, this seemed to be everything the creators could have ever wanted: fans, fame, and success. Little did they know that it would soon lead to the downfall of this once great show. The momentum that had been building up would start to slow down following the release of the 3rd season, which was when I personally started watching the show. But this initial slump had nothing to do with the show. It was actually the Rick and Morty fans that started to destroy the fun atmosphere the show had strived to create. These people, when online, were the worst of the worst. I mean, I planned a whole segment of how toxic they were, but I feel like just telling you some of the scummy things they did would get the point across better. Among a despicable list of delusional acts, we have releasing personal information on writers, rioting at multiple McDonald's franchises because they ran out of Szechuan sauce, and pissing the creators so much that now they've developed a hate with a passion for them. In fact, I actually want to make a full video explaining why Rick and Morty hates their fans, so if that's something you want to see, let me know in the comments. And although toxic fans ruined the experience for some people, the general public were still able to watch the show. I mean, all you had to do was turn your phone off and poof, the trolls were gone. But things started to get serious when the show itself became the problem. Most people said this happened during season 3, but to me, it started with the unusual opener for season 4. In my opinion, throughout that season, the creators were disappointed with the atmosphere surrounding the show, so their response was to turn it into a parody of itself to get back at the audience. And people noticed a change in the direction the show was going that season, and they didn't take it too kindly. There was some shuffling in the writing staff around that time, so most fans concluded that that was the reasoning behind it, so they went berserk. But that wasn't the only reason people took note of for it feeling different. There were big issues with the characters as well. For instance, Rick had essentially become this god who could easily overcome any obstacle with random sci-fi shenanigans. So the realism in the show decreased and it became boring, dare I say even predictable, because now nothing seemed to faze Rick, who was slowly devolving into this cocky and bitter old man. Whereas before, even though he was super smart, there was always this chance that things wouldn't go his way, and he had to struggle to find a solution. Morty, on the other hand, had also devolved into a bitter servant to Rick, and just accepted the fact that his grandpa was going to suppress him forever. This was before he got into the habit of fighting back, so he was basically a punching bag. The other characters like Summer, Rick, and Jerry didn't add anything relevant to the show, essentially becoming background characters. This was coupled with the feeling that the show didn't know what direction they wanted to go in. There was no news on Evil Morty, so it was apparent that they would not be taking a linear story path, and other episodes were so random to the point where it just stopped making sense. It's like they were throwing ideas to the wall to see which ones would stick, but none of them did. And I feel like out of all the episodes from that season, the only good ones were the VAT episode, the toilet one, and for the last one I'll leave it to you to tell me. But at this point, people had actually given up on the series. But there were some of us who still had hope. Some of us who would remain optimistic that season 5 would premiere on a banger that would make everyone forget about the past and all could be good again. And so on the 20th of June 2021, we were greeted with this.
Mr. Nimbus is an ice-cold dick killer, Morty. Okay, let's go. That's his magic ocean horn.
Yeah, so let's break this down. Throughout season 5, Rick and Morty took every complaint fans had ever made against the show and cranked it to the max. Where do I even begin? The lazy pop culture jokes, the forced attempts at meta humor, the incest baby plots, criticizing the fans, the lack of cohesive storyline, and the list just goes on and on and on. And I'm sure I missed a few, so you can tell me about them. But this season marked the first time I personally stopped watching episodes halfway through due to boredom. I just couldn't understand how something so good could devolve into whatever this was. 5 episodes of an incest baby, turkey swaps, and mecha anime was more than enough to warrant season 5 the title of war season by many people, myself included. But its saving grace came at the end of the season with its last 3 episodes. And with that, I'm talking about both the ones where Rick travels into Bird Person's mind to save him, and the season finale where evil Morty breaks through the central finite curve. These episodes showed me that Rick and Morty was still capable of screening good episodes, but just to take the piss out on the audience, they intentionally made bad episodes. Whatever the reason was though, this was possibly the lowest point for the show. Many fans had lost interest and moved on to other shows, while the ones who were still watching did so without the same enjoyment as before. But as they say, once you hit rock bottom, the only way out is up. And so far with what I have seen, this is how I think we can describe season 6. In the simplest terms, season 6 is a return to form for Rick and Morty. While the highs we experienced during the first few seasons is something that will never be replicated, I feel like this one did a good job of stoking the flame that was put out by the previous ones. It's filled with episodes that are well grounded and follow a linear progression of events. From the opening episode of the season, we were given the highest risk situation Rick and Morty had been up against through the introduction of Rick Prime, the perfect counterbalance to Rick's perceived godhoodness. Someone who he has never been able to best, and suddenly we see how vulnerable Rick really is, and not just us but the rest of the Smith family as well. Gone were the days where Rick could just phase through any obstacle with his sci-fi shenanigans. He had been bested before by evil Morty and now Prime Rick. So seeing him put in a place where he has to come to terms with these submissions is something I will always find awesome. He also learns to appreciate the role that Morty has played for him in the episode More Well Lived, which is telling of how far he has come. But it's not only Rick who makes these kinds of growth. We see the central characters actively make progression in their character arcs. In the episode Night Family, Summer takes the reins and displays why she is the most Rick-like member in the family. In Bethic Twinstinct, Beth and Space Beth come to terms with their relationship and the effect it may have on their family if it gets out of hand. And even Jerry, yes Jerry, almost sleeps with his mom, so I guess that's something to talk about. But my point is, we are starting to see tangible growth in characters for the first time in a long while. And I don't think it's accidental, because alongside all this character development, we see episodes that are also very well written about so many introspective topics. Again, the season premiere explores the damage of holding on to tragedy, with a spotlight on the degrading nature Rick had chosen to deal with the death of his Beth and Diane, and how messed up it was for everyone involved. Even the meta episode they did was approached with more care and planning than that of the train episode from season 4. It actually put a cohesive thought on a problem that they had been failing to address in a befitting manner. They displayed their thoughts on meta humor and the pressures that writers have to go through during the process of creativity, in a way that was both entertaining and understandable to the audience. Which brings me to the main reason why I think this season was able to redeem the franchise. Unlike the past few seasons, it's been able to put together stories that get points across in a cohesive manner, whether that point is how far a character has grown or how the actions of one person affects the other people around them. Because of this, throughout this season, I would say only 1 or 2 episodes really felt like filler, because the rest were able to resonate with the direction that the show was going in, and I could actually see that for the first time in a long time. I could see where they want to send the show because of how well informed the whole season was, and because of how congruent the episodes were. And that goes to show you how well this season stands on its own. So in my opinion, it was a solid success. And with this, I hope we can see it follow through in the following seasons to come, especially season 7. Thanks for making it this far in the video. Why don't you give me a like if you enjoyed it and a sub if you understood it. Click here to watch a video on the depressing reality of modern cartoons, or here for the disastrous impact Rick has had on the Smith family. Thanks for watching guys, I'll see you next time. Tune out.